John Barrick. I'm an accounting professor and CPA. I wanted to talk about the Orem School District issue, which is the most important educational and financial decision in Orem in decades, maybe even ever. Why is it that Orem students are failing? Orem has 3 seismically critical schools that the district has known about since at least 2006. Orem schools are being consolidated and sold off, and Orem residents have transferred $174 million to build schools in the fast-growing areas of the district. ASD has also proposed a $595 million bond. It will burden ASD residents or Orem residents with another $116 million in ASD debt, and as Ada Wilson promised in the August 2022 board meeting, will benefit Orem schools, teachers, and students very little. The Orem School District has 3 major funds. The general fund covers most operating expenditures and funding education. The debt fund pays the principal and interest on general obligation bonds issued for building schools, and ASD stated that Orem has a surplus in this fund in 2017. The capital fund pays for building schools and other property. ASD also stated that Orem has a surplus of this fund in 2017, but neither fund, the debt or the capital fund, was included in their 2021 analysis, and there's a reason for that. Orem School District estimates. The Alpine School District and Stronger Together, a registered Utah Political Issue Committee, or PIC, registered to fight against the Orem School District and have each issued estimates designed to make Orem residents afraid of feasible alternatives. Stronger Together issued a $21 million shortfall analysis in April 2022. Stronger Together said, ours is not a feasibility study. In fact, not one credentialed financial professional has ever put their name on the Stronger Together calculation. I wonder why. Based on mistakes and errors that I gave to Keith Wilson on July 12th, Stronger Together abandoned their calculation rather than admit their mistakes. ASD Business Services issued a $29 million general fund loss analysis in June 2022. Note that they didn't include the debt and capital funds where Orem has surpluses. Finally, ASD Business Services issued a revised $21 million general fund loss analysis in September 2022 after a tip that they used 2017 rather than 2021 state WPU numbers. A $7.5 million mistake was found by us. Alpine School District also has math errors, included expenses for schools not in Orem, didn't break out Title I funding for Orem students, and still hasn't added debt and capital fund surpluses. Correcting for these errors leaves Orem with a surplus rather than a deficit, as Stronger Together and ASD would like you to believe. Now, what about the faux tax rate increases? At a city council meeting, Sissy Rasmussen told the Orem City Council that taxes would go up by 25% and services would go down. A grammar request obtained showed Sissy claim that she'd been making it up all along. Now, Ada Wilson next claimed that the tax rates would increase 36% based on her husband, Keith Wilson, the treasurer for Stronger Together, the Utah PIC. Well, once again, that didn't turn out to be correct. Through grammar requests, Business Services at ASD said they had no documents to support these claims, which cast doubt upon all of it. In April, May, ASD Business Services answered, no tax increases are needed or necessary for an Orem district. Orem had a surplus in 2021. The feasibility study forecast a 3.5% tax increase, not 51% tax increase. ASD raised taxes 9.5% in 2022, which provides enough revenue that no additional tax increase would be needed. All the tax increases claimed by Stronger Together are designed to scare voters. The ASD needs to keep Orem to pay for building schools in the fast-growing portion of our district. Let's look at the Orem School District financial highlights. The general fund deficit is $600,000, which is less than $1 million, not the $20 million that Alpine School District and Stronger Together would have you believe. There's a debt fund surplus of $8.9 million. That means that Orem residents are still contributing to building new schools outside the district, like the $174 million that we spent there in the last 20 years. There's a capital fund surplus of $6.2 million. And you could add another $5.5 million for the sale of Hillcrest if you wanted, but we've excluded that because it's a one-time thing. Although they sold another piece of property, Polaris, for over $9 million to UVU in 2022, more money keeps leaving Orem. And finally, the total Orem district surplus is $15.5 million, which is significant. These are $15.5 million reasons why Orem would like, or Alpine School District would like Orem to stay within the district. Let's start looking at the Alpine School District's finances. We'll start with that. Page 40 of the 2021 audited financial statements show the following. Revenues of $625 million, expenses of $618 million. State revenues are 68%, local taxes make up 22%, and other local is slightly over 1%, and federal revenues are 8%. These are important numbers to remember. And remember, if your numbers don't tie to the audited financial statements, you can be sure that the numbers are not correct, which is what Alpine School District did. Now, look at the far right column. This is the general fund estimate for Orem. The estimates, the state revenues were calculated from the Utah State Board of Education based on Orem's enrollment numbers and a match to ASD's Orem estimate. Except that ASD overestimated the proposed taxable value for Orem by over $1 billion. This error phased out a few million dollars of state funding, an error that cuts against Orem. No surprises there. The direct and indirect expenses tied to ASD's Fund 10 by location file for all the schools still in Orem, and excludes Polaris and Summit Online, which are no longer in Orem or never were in Orem. Additionally, the expenses for these students are $32,000 and $30,000 per student, which is over 3 times the average cost for Alpine School District students. I wonder why Alpine put those numbers in the Orem only estimate. The Orem deficit in the general fund is just under $600,000, a stark contrast to what Alpine School District would have you believe about Orem. Look at the far right column now. This is the debt fund for Orem. Local property taxes paid into the debt fund are $18.6 million. Miscellaneous other local revenues, less $8.9 million, which is the principal and interest on the schools received by Orem. Orem subsidizes the Alpine School District by $9.7 million in the debt fund. No surprise that Alpine excluded that from their analysis. Now, look at the far right column. This is the capital fund for Orem. State revenues are just over $1 million. Local property taxes are $6.7 million. Federal revenues about $860,000. ASD never provided Orem City with capital funds expended in Orem. Beyond school improvements, the amount was estimated to be $2 million, which is shown as an expense. The principal and interest on lease revenue bonds for Centennial Elementary are $432,000. In total, Orem subsidizes the Alpine School District by $6.2 million and another $5.5 million if you add the Hillcrest sale in. What is the Orem 2020 estimate of the 3 primary funds, the general, the debt, and the capital funds? What are they together? Orem revenues total $149.7 million. Total expenses are $134.3 million. Thus, Orem's contribution to ASD from the 3 primary funds is $15.3 million. Not a deficit like Stronger Together would have you believe. Alpine School District also sold to Hillcrest, as mentioned earlier. That's $5.5 million more dollars that's being contributed to Orem. And this year, 2022, they sold another piece of property, Polaris, to UVU for over $9 million. Orem just keeps funding the Alpine School District. Let's look at these numbers and see if this model fits. Using analytical procedures, look at how good the Orem data fits the Alpine School District data. All revenues are within 2% of ASD, except for total state revenues and property taxes. Total state revenues are almost 5% below ASD's average, which suggests that state revenues are understated by 5%, meaning this estimate is conservative. Property taxes are 4% higher than ASD because Orem is above average taxpayer in the Alpine School District. Run the analytics on Alpine School District's Orem estimate and you'll find some shocking errors. ASD originally claimed that Orem's revenue only grew 7% from 2017 to 2021, while ASD's revenue grew 29%. Is that realistic? No, it's not. That's how we discovered all their errors. Alpine School District would like to think that Orem is being subsidized by the Alpine School District when the exact opposite is true. If Orem wants to leave the Alpine School District and we were costing them $20 million a year, they would gladly let us leave. There's a reason Alpine School District is fighting to keep Orem in the Alpine School District, and it's not so they can fix our schools or better our children's education. Now, why split the district now? Some people say, oh, we should wait a few years. Well, first of all, Orem has a surplus in 2021. Now is the time to be accountable to our children within Orem, especially our Title I children that don't get an adequate education. Second, Alpine School District will not fix Orem's seismically unsafe schools. They've known about these schools since 2006 and haven't done anything. Alpine School District's new bond will burden Orem with another $116 million in debt with very little to show for it. It will raise taxes likely $300 per year for 20 years for the average homeowner. Growth projections of 250% in Eagle Mountain and Saratoga Springs will make them larger than Orem and Lehigh, requiring at least 5 more bonds. 2 more bonds alone will subject Orem to so much debt that an Orem-only district will no longer be financially